Hello and welcome to this DH Tech Meetup. Today I'm proposing you to talk about the remote work and how we established the remote work at DH. A hot question nowadays, but you will see is not as simple as that. Oh, sorry, some technical issues from my side. Yes, this is the slide I'm looking for. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to DH. DH is a software as a service company which proposes technology and marketing solution for hotels to stay online and leverage their whole distribution chain. DH is more than 12,000 clients and 500 partners all over the world. We are also a fast-growing company, so if you want to join us, please stick until the end. I will share information on how to. My name is Yuri Tuknin. I am a lead software engineer at DH. And before we start, I'd like to hear from you if you were working remotely before the pandemic. So let me launch the poll and I will invite you to reply to this question. Did you ever do the remote before the pandemic? It's coming. Good. By the way, if you have any comments during this meetup or any questions, just ask them or post your comments in the chat section of Zoom. I will try to look at from time to time and answer the questions if there are some questions there. And in any case, we will discuss some of the most important things at the end. Especially, we'll try to respond to the question, how could the remote be even better? Okay, so I think we are okay with the poll. So let me share the results. I hope you see the results. And yeah, so most of you guys were working remotely before the pandemic, and it's a very good thing. So let's start from the beginning, before the pandemic. So as I said during this meetup, I will share our experience of the remote work at DH, of how we established the remote work at DH Research and Development Department, how we did the remote before the pandemic, how suddenly we found ourselves working 100% remotely, mostly from home, but not only, what practices we applied to facilitate the remote work, what difficulties we faced and how we weathered them, and after all, how it changed our work. So let's start with the beginning. Before the pandemic hit basically everyone on this planet, we at DH Research and Development were practicing some kind of light form of remote. An employee could negotiate 1 day per week to work remotely, or work remotely from time to time if he had or she had some personal constraints. This was not really a remote work as it is we understand it now, but we learned something on how to collaborate with the remote partners and how to collaborate with the guys who are on site and working remotely. And we learned actually a lot about it. So let's talk about what is remote. The paradigm isn't new, especially in IT industry. Companies like Gitlab, Stack Overflow, game development companies like Moon Studios, they get the developer for a game, or even 37 Signals company, right now they're calling themselves Basecamp, were practicing remote since the beginning of millennium. The remote work wasn't possible during the fax era, obviously, and the technology allowed the remote to happen. Tools and software like Skype, Meet to share your screen and to do the video conference, collaboration software like Dropbox and Google Drive made the remote possible, and even the revolutionary open source hub GitHub, which actually put in place the Git repository online, made the remote work possible. I think I have some issues with my camera. I'm sorry for that. Possible. So let's see how one of the leaders, Gitlab, is given a definition of the remote work. So this is a Gitlab's remote manifesto. The remote work, I'm talking about the ideal, the whole remote, the full remote work, is when you're hiring people from all over the world. Right now at DH, we are focusing on hiring on France and Spain, but who knows, maybe we'll go further. Flexible working hours over the fixed hours. We will see it later, but giving a flexibility to your employees to work remotely is a huge benefit for productivity. Writing down knowledge, then to have the verbal explanations. This is a very important point, as the remote is based on the writing. You will see how we are hiring. When we are hiring the developers, we are looking at the code and how the code is written in order to understand how the quality of the writing of the person. Written down process over on-job trainings. And important things, it's better to always to have your processes described and put something online in your documentation software to have the basic and global knowledge and understanding how the company and teams work. Public sharing information over the need-to-know access. A very important thing, when you're collaborating online, when you're collaborating remotely, everybody should have an access to the same knowledge. So that's how we put some tools like GitLab and Confluence to have this knowledge. Opening up every document for editing. Same idea. Just to make it possible for everybody to edit the documents online. Asynchronous communication over synchronous communication. The same important point. We are using emails, we are using chat to communicate with each other. So you are not going to be given a reply instantly, but eventually a person that you are contacting will reply to this. The results of work over the hours put in. An important point. We are evaluating the results of our work, not how many hours are you actually putting in it to get to the result. Formal communication over informal communication channels. We are using the set of tools like Google Suite to provide the communication channel for everybody to use them. This is really it, as simple as that. But the path to do this all remote and full remote work is incredibly difficult. That's why at DH, considering the size of the company and the legal issues could arise, we adopted a hybrid way, another way. As I'm talking mostly about DH France and the R&D in the French R&D department, but all other departments in our company adopted the remote work as well. So the pandemic hit France back in March 2020, and the French government recommended for all companies to go full remote. They actually recommended it because they don't have a legal possibility to order private companies to do the remote work. We at DH were ready, but for a lot of companies, it was a really big bang. I remember my wife; she was looking for a job just before the pandemic hit everyone. She was looking for a job, and she was asking the question to the interviewers of if the company provides a remote. And I remember that reply that she cited the interviewer that replied to her. It said, no, we are not going to do remote, never, it's not the policy of the company, and etc., etc., etc. I'm just wondering how this company survived the crisis, if they did, of course. So, back into DH, at DH we were actually ready. As you may know, France is very famous for its strikes. And back in 2019, we had this huge, massive strike of public transportation workers hit all over the France. So we were forced to work remotely for a certain period of time. And and we learned a lot how to work during this period. And the IT department was preparing the last PCs for those employees who still had their desktop PCs for everybody to have laptops. So this transition to the remote, to the full remote job, to the full remote work in March 2020, when the first lockdown came, was relatively smooth inside of the R&D and IT department. And at the first lockdown, we conducted a Your Perfect Workspace survey at the R&D department. So 80% liked the experience of the extended remote work. 90% are fine with minimum 1 day in the office. 65% were fine with 2 days. The flexi office and that's what we call a hybrid way was widely accepted. But the thing to remember is that the right office remote work balance was different for everyone. So that's how we applied our hybrid way. So let's talk about our hybrid approach. Hybrid remote was easier to implement for an established company like DH, because in a hybrid mode, you can have a subset of employees that are commuting to the office, or maybe teams who have fixed days that they are coming into the office to have their collaboration in place, to conduct their routines, like plannings, etc. Office can be a delightful place, actually, if it's not the noisy open space where you're constantly distracted by the general noise or the colleagues that are asking you questions, where your day gets split into the series of working windows and you actually cannot perform as if you were concentrated on your tasks. But for some people, office is a requirement. A place to work is a requirement, is a place because they need to have this routine to get themselves into work, to switch from their personal life to the professional life, to be productive and to be creative after all.
Such hybrid flexi office, especially if it takes part of the larger set of possibilities of places to work from, can serve as a space to unite people and teams for work sessions, meetups, events, but also could serve as a quiet space for those who require to separate work from home or even just have a place to change the ambience.
At DH, we partnered with Vojo to be able to work from more than 300 workspaces fitted in hotel spots, train station, concept store, through France. At Nantes, you can work from Cantine Numérique, the coolest place as they call it, a dynamic space full of startups and awesome people. At Paris, our head office and our heart of the company is co-working space Cœur Marais. And at Bordeaux, at Win Bordeaux. Oops, I think this is the wrong photo I put here. But why not? Tell me in chat from where you wanted to work, or what experience that you had the places of you doing the work from. Just write it down in the chat. And we will discuss it maybe later. On a boat, my dream place. Once I worked from the poolside. Ah, it's very nice. See? Why not? Why not? By the way, in those Vojo places, you can find really cozy hotels to work from, and it's quite neat. Work from beach, of course. But yeah, remember, we will talk about it. You have to have an internet connection to work remotely. Nice. Okay. Just keep it coming in the chat if you had places you were working from, and we will go further. So, what was working out of the box during the remote work? Remote work is productive. It provides more concentration. As I said before, sometimes, quite often in the office, your work day gets split into the series of those working windows as you get distracted. While you're working remotely, you can have a full space to concentrate on your tasks and be more efficient. It also requires a new level of commitment, from the leaders of tomorrow. Yeah, I'm talking about procrastinators, but that's another thing. Technology allows remote, and we should be careful about our internet connections, like, the issues I had with camera just a couple of minutes ago. And right now, yeah, it's coming back, those camera issues. I really hate it. But you see, remote connection is a very important thing. And most important things, a really important thing that we learned is that remote works. Remote is productive and teams are delivering. Remote is also built on trust. But let's put it another way around. Why we would even hire people that we are not trusting? Remote, yeah, it's becoming. Okay, never mind. Connection issues. Remote built on trust. But let's just put it another way around. But we would even hire people that we are not trusting. Remote allows you to actually implement the famous, we are hiring people in order to those people to tell us what to do and not to tell them what to do. Agile. The software development term Scrum, I think, was first used back in 1980s or something. I don't think that at that time someone could even imagine that we are going to use it on a daily basis, especially in the remote work. But this methodology works. The routines like daily stand-ups, plannings, grooming sessions, demos to keep the product team in touch and up to date on the deliveries are really important, and they work. Code reviews are also a very important point. I'm sorry for my camera. The real collaboration is happening during the code reviews. When you are analyzing the code each other, you are discussing the code, you are working on the code, you're trying to do the best to implement the best possible solution to the problem. So the code reviews is a collaboration. And pair programming, as well as the code reviews, are really important. We spend whole days in the pair programming, just launching the video conference software, talking with each other, analyzing the code of each other, or just sharing the one screen and just giving an opinion about the code, or even have a small talk, or even a coffee break. You can spend the whole days just to code and work together using the pair programming with the screen sharing sessions, or the tools like Visual Studio Live, for example, also a good tool to share the screen and to write code together. On calls and supervision. I'm sorry for my camera. Constant monitoring is a must, especially in remote. So it's really nice to have this superhero which is going there and monitoring your systems, and or just fixing some issues, or just giving you a ping if something goes wrong. So on-calls and supervision are a must in remote. But let's see other things. What we had to put in place to enable remote. Hiring is not easy. Onboarding remotely is even more difficult. I suggest you to go and see the meetup our colleague Aurélien Meunier did recently on this topic. He gives very good insights about onboarding remotely. So we will post the link in the chat so you'll be able to go and see that. Yeah, thanks. The key about the remote thing is the key thing about remote work is flexibility. Since we saw that remote is built on trust, giving a flexibility to your employees is important. In any case, you are not there with them to see what they are doing. So the flexibility is a key, because some of them could start early, take a morning coffee, open their laptop, look through emails, or take a task to do, or some of them may prefer to work lately, like fixing that one bug until the end of the day, and just to get it done, just to get it fixed. So we are different in this, and giving the flexibility is a good way. This doesn't mean that you don't have to have some fixed working sessions like stand-ups and other routines, but still, the flexibility is a key. Informal coffee pauses could be a good thing to add if you want to keep an informal connection with your team. It didn't work for everyone. I must agree with that. But it could help to establish this connection, informal connection between your employees. We also put in place what we call the random deroulette. It's when the system is choosing 3 or 4 participants all over the company, not in the research and development department, just all over the company. And just to take 30 minutes of your morning time to drink a coffee with them, and just chat about everything. Have a small talk, discuss what is happening in other countries if you are talking to some people that are located in other countries. It's very, very interesting thing to do if you want to put some, faces behind the names and chat and etc., just to know your colleagues you are working with. Another important thing that we learned is the manager's role. Microsoft did the same. They did the study actually on this case during this pandemic period, and they discovered the research teams discovered that the teams whose managers were constantly supporting their employees and put in place one-to-ones performed better and had a greater motivation than those teams who aren't. So we did the same, some kind of thing. We established one-to-ones with our employees to address all the questions, like professional questions, issues on tasks, etc., etc., etc. So you can just talk about everything with your colleague to support them, to motivate them. So the manager's role is really important, and managers should give even more of their time to the employees while working remotely. This is actually key. Yeah. So as you said, technology made it possible. Technology made the remote work possible. So we cannot just not to mention tools that we have put in place to enable it. We put in place what we call the D Academy. This is an online learning platform that gives a basic knowledge for all the products through the company. So when the newcomer is arriving to the company, he or she is passing through this learning platform to learn of what his company is doing, to understand the products, to understand what we're actually producing in the company. We are also a PCI DSS certified company, so we have those trainings also on the DH Academy put in place in order to pass the certification of the certified company. We partnered with Udemy platform to give even more access to the knowledge and training programs on the Udemy platform. We are using Care. Care, it's a solution so you'll be able to contact rapidly with a healthcare professional if you have some psychological issues, or just to talk about with your doctor. We put online training sessions, online sports sessions, just to keep you informed. Gyms are closed during the lockdowns, so it's better to keep you informed. HR tools are also very important because they give you a centralized access to all the HR demands that you may have. In the same time, the most important thing of the HR tools is a dictionary. Is a dictionary of your employees. So you can just have a photo of the person who you'll be contacting if you never saw this person before. Very important things. And of course, G Suite. This is a hot set provides you a hot set of tools, mail, chat, video conference software, agenda, etc., etc. So a must. So this was the tools that we have put in place globally on the company level, but we're still using some tools at the R&D. The first tool is Gitlab. This is the entry point of all the collaboration that is happening between developers inside the R&D. It's not only the Git repository, it's not only the CI/CD platform, but it's also a tool to collaborate, to implement, to make the code review possible, to implement this collaboration, especially remotely. Jira. I think everybody knows Jira, to follow up with your tickets, to give a link between you and products. Confluence, an important piece of software to document everything, to generate the knowledge, to put in place in written form everything you know in the company. Some teams are using channels like Discord, for example, some tools like Discord to have a quick audio communication messaging, to talk by voice. Sometimes it's difficult to write things down, so it could be a nice option to do. And we are following the paradigm of the sharing. So we put in place an awesome list. So it's a list of the tools that developers are using on a daily basis. So that everybody could just take that one or that one and to share the knowledge about tools they are using during their work. Remote work is not only the benefits, but it has difficulties. And one of the difficulties is the difficulty that exists also in the real life. It's relationships. Relationships are complicated, and they're especially complicated in the remote. You know, when people have a distance between each other, sometimes it could be really complicated. So this applies actually to the professional life. In order to tackle this, and in order to tackle some difficulties between the relationship between, for example, junior developers and senior developers, managers and the team leaders should keep in touch with both of them and should tackle those questions right away to reduce any misunderstanding that could happen between team members, to facilitate the communication, to explain things, to work with your employees. This is a really important thing about managers and relationships. If people are not going to the office, you know, some people are actually, as I said, they need this time to switch themselves into the work. They need the time to just get into, to keep up, to start their working day. So the place to work, which is different from your home, is actually a very important thing to put in place. That's why we have our offices, and that's why we are partnering with Wojo that provides the places to work, to switch the ambience, to allow this transition to the workdays. Office should not be seen as a kind of blessing, especially if we were used to cut the links right now during the pandemic. It's not a blessing, because just because you were cut of your social links and you want to go and see your colleagues, but it's a place that could be calm, that could facilitate the work as well. So for those people who really wants to go and switch themselves to the office and start working, to facilitate the remote collaboration, to be creative, to be productive, a place to work should be put in place. Writing is difficult, but remote work is all about writing. You just cannot. We still didn't learn how to actually project the holograms of ourselves into another person's room. So writing should be there, and that's why during the hiring processing we're taking a look at the person code. We're taking a look at how the person writes to understand if she or he is capable to explain their thoughts in a written form, to explain their code in a written form. So this is a very good insight to understand that whatever the person could be productive during the remote, and could reduce the conflicts during the remote. As it seems to be wired, but people tend to overwork than underwork during the remote in general, because the balance between your personal life and the professional life could be blurred. So as I said, we could start earlier to just check your emails, to start browsing your tickets, or even just look into the code, and you can finish earlier to fix that issue, or just to have another call with your colleague to discuss that issue. So we should be careful about not to not to overwork during the remote. Non-verbal communications are unfortunately lost during the remote. And the human proximity is very reduced. But basically, if you don't have any other human at home, you just talking with the camera. And talking with the camera, it's not really a real talking, as you're talking virtually with someone. You cannot see the person behind it. You cannot see the human behind it. Even we are turning on the cameras, it still doesn't give that effect. So we should be careful about that. And the good thing is to have some meetings. After pandemic, it is possible, but it's really important to keep the links between teams and to have the communication, not only the virtual one, but the real one. Distractions. There are distractions, especially at home, like TV, kids, and whatever. So they could impact the productivity. So just be careful about those distractions. And
we must really make a difference between the remote work during this pandemic
and outside of it.
So yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this form of meetup. And if you have any questions, and especially if you want to talk about it, so I'm ready here to talk about it and discuss how could we do the remote work better. We learned a lot at DH, but still we have a lot of things to do and learn. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any experiences, please share those experiences. But if you don't, well, it's another question. Thank you for your messages. Nice, thank you. A study has shown that you cannot function with human if you don't have any human contact. They actually tried it on kids. Oh, no. They died. Okay, I'm thank you. Having a swimming time in the beach during lunch break is the best perk of remote work. I actually, I actually did work from the workspaces, and we have a pool, just the town pool just around it. So it was a nice experience. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, if you don't have any questions or comments. Okay. So I really thank you for this participation, and I hope you liked this meetup.